Hello everyone, today we're going to be looking at Ethereum's current Elliott Wave counts on both the macro and micro timeframes. I'm going to be giving my explanation on what structure we may be on the macro timeframe and why it might be worth holding Ethereum going into 2025. Ethereum is one of the oldest coins along with XRP and Litecoin. I've explained quite extensively that these dinosaur coins have massive potential to the upside despite the constant fluctuations in price for Bitcoin. One of the main patterns that I'm currently eyeing is this possible new potential triangle on the macro that we might have been building since 2022 instead of that 1-2-1-2 bullish setup structure that we had originally anticipated. Now this triangle fits pretty nicely with the current price action that shows us working in possibly three-wave movements within the larger structure of this triangle. As we are now also concluding this possible Subwave C, we now need to finish that Subwave D and E to validate this triangle. So if we take a look at XRP, we also see XRP building a similar triangle pattern, but on a different scale. So that could be also a foreshadowing event that is also possibly being built up for Ethereum as well. And for a triangle to occur, we must also make sure that we are positioned correctly, as triangles can't be fitted within wave 2s, rather they are worked within wave 4s, like we may be currently being built up for the minuet degree in blue on the macro. And they can also be positioned within wave Bs or more complex wave structures as well. So being possibly correctly positioned within this macro wave 4 that we are in right now, the minuet degree, it helps us fit in a good narrative for this possible triangle to be being worked upon right now as we speak. We originally anticipated Ethereum, like I've said, for possibly building a 1-2-1-2 structure, but that doesn't seem likely anymore, as a smaller degree 1-2 failed to create a wave 3 to the upside and instead broke back into the territory of wave 1 by just a hair. So that is why we are not working on that possible 1-2-1-2 idea anymore. And since we're still currently bullish on altcoins, the only alternative that I can find on the macro is a possible triangle being built up here, which also fits nicely since XRP is also possibly in a triangle as well. In terms of the trading opportunities, you can approach this in a few ways using the risk-reward ratio tool with this current triangle pattern. Triangles gives us clear invalidation points of a soft invalidation and hard invalidations as indicated by these red lines here. You can see that we have the first one being that the break of the previous leg of this move here of this ABC and also the Subwave C, that is the first soft invalidation level where you can possibly place some stop losses. Lastly, if that level breaks, the ideal strategy would be to wait for how Ethereum reacts at the next support level so that we can readjust the trend line as needed for the trend line. And we also have a lot of room for the invalidation for the triangle, so that is going to be the key aspect of this possible trade setup going forward as this triangle is continuing to build up. What's most important is that we still need to be continuing a series of threes for a possible Subwave C if this possible breaks down, and then for the D and E respectively. For now, the triangle is still pending a Subwave D at the current time of recording, and that would ultimately be the best thing for the bull scenario to go forward to build more confidence, as we do have a pretty solid set of threes being built up up to this point that helps us assume a little bit earlier for this triangle to play out, and also that foreshadowing event that XRP is also being built up. So in order to construct the actual three waves, we have a possible ABC going into that first subwave A, and then we have a possible WXY going into that wave B, and then another ABC going into that wave C, and now we're just waiting for two more subwaves being built that is really close to the apex of the triangle anyways. This move up here was a clear move as a possible 1-2-1-2 structure, but it is now invalidated, like I've said, because we went into that price territory of that wave 1 as a possible 3-4 being built here. So that's fine. We just work with a different alternative scenario here. And again, the AC trendline is holding quite well as a temporary support. And if that breaks, that soft invalidation level is going to be key, as we can continue to adjust this triangle as needed until we actually hit that hard invalidation level. So what that means is it's not really a sell signal at this point with the current data given on the macro, but it does give us potential opportunity or higher opportunity that this triangle may be validated very soon if we do build up that subwave D. So if we zoom in and see how we can actually build up this subwave C of this triangle and why it may be a three-way move instead of some kind of impulsive move to the downside that might be bearish, is that we have a possible leading diagonal going into wave A. This move here is also a three-way move going into a possible subwave A, B, C, D, E, where the E wave has truncated, and this is now considered the impulse of the wave C, eventually creating that larger ABC to the downside. Now, if we take the Fibonacci extensions and see the measurements of this A to the C, we take it from the origin of wave A to the pivot of wave A to the pivot of wave B. We have also, just similarly like Bitcoin, have surpassed that 1-to-1, but also met us into that zone between the 161.8%, which is a very good zone. And interestingly enough, we did get some bounce on that 100% zone as well. So we are continuing to monitor the situation and see if this is going to be turning into an impulsive structure. That would be the first kind of key going into that wave A of this wave, Subwave D. We're going to look for a 3-way pullback and another 5-way move up, eventually creating a larger 3-way move for this Subwave D, as that is going to be the next expectation. And then we should see another similar kind of rejection, which is going to be expected because of that new trend line being formed from that triangle. And then we should be looking for that Subwave E to eventually resolve at the maximum point of the apex. Basically at this point, usually triangles will resolve around 70% of the apex, which we are currently at, but right now we're looking for subwaves D and E, and that can be relatively short in time and also in size, eventually breaking out of this based on the post triangle thrust measurement. So that's currently the first setup that I'm looking at for Ethereum on the macro time frame. Again, we're positioned quite nicely for a triangle to being built up here for a possible wave 4 of the mini degree on the macro, and then we're looking for a massive move to the upside. In terms of the targets for wave 5, if this triangle actually continues to play out, is that we're going to be looking for this possible subwave 4 based on this measurement of wave 1, 3, and 4. We are looking at the possible target of a 100% based on the equality of this wave 1 here. So if we're looking at the equality of wave 1, usually that is going to be based on Fibonacci. If we take it from the pivot of wave 1 and then the pivot of a possible assumed wave 4, that is what gives us that possible target. Actually, this should be up here, of around $10,000 per Ethereum, which is a very good even spot for Ethereum, and also breaking the previous all-time high for Ethereum going forward. So hopefully that was helpful, ladies and gentlemen. I think that Ethereum is still building this possible triangle and in a bullish narrative, just like what we are seeing for XRP and Litecoin. I think this is going to be one of the most bullish coins going forward. However, I think there's more risk-reward opportunity for XRP since it's been accumulating for so long and has a better triangle look to it, with all of the subwaves being counted for. For now, for Ethereum, we only have subwave C. We want to be looking for subwave D and E, but right now with all the current data given, it looks like we are going to be actually completing this triangle going forward. I'll be making sure to update this current count if we do break a little bit lower and see how we can adjust this possible count as a 3-way move going down. But for now, I think that we are currently building up this triangle pretty nicely. Hopefully that was helpful. I'll see you guys in the next video with another analysis. See you later. Bye bye.